Most ancient texts were sung, especially religious texts. Buddhist scriptures, Hindu scriptures, Islamic scriptures, and Hebrew scriptures. The Bible was originally sung. In fact, no one even considered speaking or reading the Bible in a speaking voice before the end of the captivity, the Babylonian captivity, when the people came back from Babylon. The first indication that anyone ever considered speaking scripture is in the Talmud, written long after the Bible. In the synagogues that were established after the captivity, people had a temptation to read because the synagogues were study centers. But all ancient scripture was sung, and the Bible is no exception. The ancient Egyptian wall paintings and Assyrian wall paintings show people leading choirs singing the ancient texts with hand signals. And so you have two sets of signals to give the notes or rhythm and intonation and the ornamentation by showing the people with different hand signals when to raise the pitch and lower the pitch. The same practice apparently applies to the Bible as well. And yet, after the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 AD, little by little, the original music of the Bible was forgotten. The Jews were scattered throughout the world, and they began to take up the various folk traditions in music wherever they were living, and the original meaning of the music of the scriptures was forgotten. The same is true of the early Christians, who lost the Hebrew liturgical or musical use of the scriptures as they used Greek and other languages. So the music was in danger of being forgotten. For this reason, the Masoretic scribes in the 8th and 9th centuries added signs to the Hebrew scriptures to show how they should be pronounced. They added the vowels so that people would be able to pronounce the words, and they added the accent signs to show which words were important and in what order, and also to give the musical sense, to preserve the musical meaning that the original scriptures had. The Masoretes themselves did not know what the music was. They were merely transmitting an ancient tradition, a tradition that had been forgotten. And so, when we come down to our own times, we find that the ancient tradition of how to sing the Bible has been completely forgotten. In the synagogue, you have many different traditions from different parts of the world to sing or cantillate the scriptures in the synagogue, but these are late traditions, songs that have been picked up from the folkways of the different countries. Suzanne Hayek-Ventura, professor of composition and music theory in France, has studied the Masoretic signs for many decades to find out how the music of the Bible originally sounded. When you think about it, the system really has to be an easy, simple one. The signs were made to reveal the music, not to hide it. And a diatonic scale has only 8 notes. And in fact, when we look at the signs, we find that in the prose sections of the Bible, there are only 8 lower signs. Suzanne Hayek-Ventura got the idea that these signs represented the notes on a diatonic scale, the same kind of scale that we use in modern music today. This wasn't such a strange idea when you consider that Arabic music at the time the Masoretic scribes added these signs to the text, also used signs under a line of text to indicate the notes on a scale. So this was normal procedure at the time that the Masoretes added these signs. In the time and place, it was largely Arab culture in the Middle East at the time. It was the practice to add signs, markings under a line of text to give the different notes or degrees on a diatonic scale. And Suzanne Haidt-Ventura had the theory that the Bible signs were also indicative of degrees on a scale. She worked this out, which was not really that difficult once she got the idea. You know, when you were back in the 3rd grade, you probably had a little cipher and you had a different mark for every letter in the alphabet, and you could pass notes in it. And for the first day or two, you could pass notes so that no one could read them. But after about 3 days, everybody in the class knew those ciphers. They had figured them out. Well, the musical signs of the Bible are actually simpler than that. The cipher is made to hide the message, but the Masoretic signs are made to reveal it. And considering that there are only 8 notes in the scale, it was not a terribly difficult matter to figure out what each one meant, especially since one of them means end, so it would be the tonic on your scale, and one of them means rest, and that's going to be a 4th or a 5th above the tonic in any case. So even with that, you start out with a little edge on it. And statistically, by examining these signs, it was possible to determine what the notes on the scale were. And then, by trying it out and listening to see if it made music or not, it was confirmed. In fact, she was able to uncover a music that had been lost for centuries, but was the foundation of Hebrew worship in the temple music, and perhaps even earlier. The upper signs are, in Arabic music, signs to show the rhythm. But since the Bible is not written as a rhythmic text, it doesn't have a meter like Arabic poetry, it's obvious that these signs are something else. And they turn out to be ornaments, little variations in the melody to add color and interest. So that's the way this exciting discovery was made by Suzanne Haidt-Ventura. I'll show you how the signs work now. On the board, now here you see how the signs work. Hebrew is written from right to left, and it's basically written with large letters that are all consonants. So the most ancient texts are written just in consonants, and the Masoretic scribes have added the vowels and the musical notes. And all of these X's here represent the Hebrew consonants, the big letters in the text. And they can be any of the Hebrew letters. So the vowel and musical signs are written under and above, under here, and above the Hebrew consonant letters. So these X's just represent letters. And under the X's we have the Masoretic signs that represent the notes on a scale. And here you have a row of 8 of them at the top. And here at the bottom you have another row